Have you ever got lost, even though you had the directions? Somebody told me I was supposed to be on stage, but I can't seem to find this stage, even though I've been there 100 times. When my wife and I got married, we went to Breckenridge. We got into Denver. How many of you remember those old maps goes? You know, the big map books that gave you directions where you're going? Well, we got into Denver, and we were going to Breckenridge, and there's only one of us that can actually read directions. And it happened to be the guy that was driving. I mean, come on, be honest with me. Have you ever had the directions and still got lost? I mean, we've all been there. We've all been to those places where we're like, how did we get here? This isn't where we're supposed to be. This isn't where we're going. But I remember very vividly, we're driving through and we're going up and down the hills, and this was new for a Texas boy. All I knew is that it was August. I was no longer going to be in the heat and the humidity. I was going to be somewhere where it was cool and nice. And we're on our way. And I'm like, which way do we go? Do we go left? Do we go right? Do we go straight? Which way do we go? Here's the map. Can you give me directions? Well, which way's north? Up, right? I mean, we've all been there, and it's actually even probably been that way for your life, where you had the directions, you've had them the entire time, but yet you still felt lost, confused, maybe out of control. We've been going through the life of Joseph, and we've been watching the ups and downs of his life. I mean, from his perspective, it probably started off pretty well. He was Dad's favorite. Dad loved him more than all the other boys. Dad had a big, bright future for Joseph that he envisioned that he would do, and even Joseph began to take on that future. So much so that the bratty little brother that he was, he rubbed it into the big brothers. He rubbed it in. One day this is going to happen. No way. There's no way, brother, we will ever bow to you. And brothers do what brothers do. They fight, they argue. But these brothers, they took it a little farther. They sold him. They got rid of him. Let's get rid of the thorn in our side, the problem that we've been dealing with our entire life. Let's get rid of him. And then Joseph finds himself in an unexpected place. This isn't where I'm supposed to be. This isn't who I'm supposed to become. I'm not supposed to be a slave. I'm not supposed to be sold into somebody else's family. I've got rights. I've got a future. There's been a promise that's been made about me for me. And then he finds himself constantly over and over and over finding the favor of God. God being with him. No matter what his situation, no matter what his circumstances may be. No matter if he was on the top or the bottom. We see it over and over in the life of Joseph that God is with him. And as we discovered last week, even in that situation that he never wanted to be in with Potiphar's wife, even then God was still with him. And then we find Joseph being accused of something that he never did. This isn't the way it's supposed to be. I mean, I thought things were actually getting back on track and I was going to where I was supposed to go, becoming who God said I would become. And then he finds himself in prison. What for most would seem like the darkest days of your life. A place that nobody wants to go, nobody wants to spend any time or experience. But Joseph finds himself in prison, and even in prison, the same thing still remains. He finds favor with God. God is with him. So I ask, have you ever been lost? And have you ever asked the question, God, where are you? Where are you? It's not supposed to be this way. My marriage was supposed to last. There was supposed to be nothing that would ever break this union apart. We were supposed to do this forever. I should have never lost my kid when he was 16 to cancer. I should have never lost that job. I was meant for that job. I was built for that job. I should have never lost it. God, where are you? My kid was never meant to go to prison, but he did. God, where are you in the middle of this? All those teenager years, I was hoping that it would be different for us, that my teenagers would be different than all the other teenagers, that it wouldn't be so hard, that they wouldn't be so defiant, being willing to push back on everything that we say, everything that we expect. God, where are you? God, we did everything right. We gave to the church, we served, but yet we still wonder where our next meal is going to come from. God, where are you? And I have to imagine for just a moment, as Joseph was going through the ups and downs of his life, there had to be moments where he said, God, where are you? It wasn't supposed to be this way. Those cliche sayings that you and I hear, hey, just when you get to the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. It sounds good, but in theory, it doesn't really work because I'm hurting inside. God, it wasn't supposed to be this way. I was supposed to be brought up into a good family with a loving mom and a loving dad. Nobody should have ever gotten hurt. God, where are you? Maybe that's where you are today. Maybe you're crying out to God, God, where are you in the middle of where I am, in the middle of what I never expected to be? God, where are you? If you have your Bibles this morning, I want to encourage you to turn to Genesis chapter 39. And we're going to pick up in verse 20. And as I said, leading up to this point, what we've seen in the life of Joseph is a young man that was loved dearly by his father and despised by his brothers, sold into slavery, found himself rising through the ranks in Potiphar's house. And as he rose through the ranks, accomplishing task after task, allowing his abilities to shine, he found himself in an unpeculiar situation where Potiphar's wife makes a pass at him. And then he runs, as we discovered last week. And then she makes false accusations against him. And because of those accusations, he finds himself in prison here in Genesis 39, starting in verse 20. Joseph's master took him and he put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. But while Joseph was there in prison, the Lord was with him. I encourage you to underline that because it's important for you and I to see this over and over again. He showed him kindness. He granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison. And he was made responsible for all that was done there. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care because the Lord was with Joseph and he gave him success in whatever he did. I can only imagine again what Joseph is thinking. God, I've been faithful. God, I've stood the test no matter what it's been. I've remained there, and God continues to show up and say, Joseph, it's okay, I'm with you. I know this seems dark and it seems desperate, but I'm with you. Even in the darkest place, I still give you favor. And look what it says, picking up in verse 24, in verse 40, or in chapter 40, I'm sorry. Sometime later, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt offended their master, the king of Egypt. Pharaoh was angry with two officials, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker, and he put them into custody in the house of the captain of the guard in the same prison on where Joseph was confined. The captain of the guard assigned them to Joseph, and he attended them. After they had been in custody for some time, each of the two men, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were being held in prison, had a dream the same night. and each dream had a meaning of its own. When Joseph came to them the next morning, he saw that they were dejected. So he asked Pharaoh's officials who were in custody with him in the master's house, "Why do you look so sad today?" "We both had dreams," they answered, "but there is no interpreter to them." Then Joseph said to them, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me your dreams." So the chief cupbearer told Joseph his dream. He said to him, "In my dream, I saw a vine in front of me, and on the vine were 3 branches. And as soon as it budded, it blossomed, and its clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes, squeezed them into Pharaoh's cup, and put the cup in his hand." "This is what it means," Joseph said to him. "The 3 branches are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your position. And you will put Pharaoh's cup in his hand, just as you used to do when you were his cupbearer. But when all goes well with you, remember me and show me kindness. Mention me to Pharaoh and get me out of this prison. I was forcibly carried off from the land of the Hebrews. And even here, I've done nothing to deserve being put into this dungeon." When the chief baker saw that Joseph had given favorable interpretation, he said to Joseph, "I too had a dream. On my head were 3 baskets of bread. In the top basket were all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh, but the birds were eating them out of the baskets of my head. This is what it means," Joseph said. "The 3 baskets are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift off your head and impale your body on a pole, and the birds will eat away your flesh." Now, the 3rd day was Pharaoh's birthday, and he gave a feast for all of his officials. He lifted up the heads of the chief cupbearer and the chief cupbearer and the chief baker in the presence of his officials. He restored the chief cupbearer to his position, so that he once again would put the cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he impaled the chief baker, just as Joseph had said to them in his interpretation. The chief cupbearer, however, did not remember Joseph. He'd forgotten him. I mean, look at the situation that Joseph finds himself in. He finds himself in prison. And an opportunity arises while he's in prison, an opportunity to interpret 2 different dreams. And he says the same thing, in essence, to both of them. As he interprets their dream, hopefully they won't forget about him. Hey, when you go back to Pharaoh, because you will go back to Pharaoh, and when you do, just remind him that it was me that interpreted your dreams. Allow him to find favor on me the same way that God has found favor on me. But what happens? They go and they do exactly as Joseph said they would do, and they forgot about him. I mean, one, obviously, he was killed. There's no way that he can remind Pharaoh of what Joseph did. But the other, the cupbearer, he had every opportunity. And so I have to wonder for Joseph, sitting in that situation, what did he think? Okay, God, I've done everything that you asked. Where are you? God, where are you? It's not supposed to be this way. You were supposed to show up. I mean, I interpreted their dreams. I gave them everything necessary. Help me out. Help me out. I'm tired of being down here. I mean, we don't know how long he was there when these guys showed up. But he's tired of being there. I mean, you've been in those dark places where you've tried everything. You've done everything possible to try to get out of it. You've tried everything on your own to hopefully find some way to rescue yourself from whatever it is that you're going through. So what is it that you and I can begin to discover from Joseph as he sits in prison, as he sits in a pit, as he's separated from his family, as he finds himself in a foreign land, away from everyone and everything that he knows? What is it that you and I can begin to discover and learn from him? Again, what we see over and over is that it says that God was with Joseph. Why was God with Joseph? It was simple. He was with God. Joseph was with God. Joseph put a priority around his relationship with God. Joseph was always seeking truth. If we're going to be like Joseph, we have to seek truth. We have to look for it. What happens when something goes wrong in your life? Where do you run? Do you run to worry or do you run to the Word? When everything's upside down, where do you run? Is the first response to just, what am I going to do? I don't know if I can handle this. It's not supposed to be this way. Why me? Anybody else but me? I'm not strong enough. I can't handle this. I'm not prepared for this. Just give me a little bit more time. Or is your natural response to run to the Word, to seek truth? To look to God to be your anchor. I mean, that's what he did. What we know about Joseph is he sought God. He sought truth. And truth is one of those things, especially in our world, we look into all different places to find truth. As a father of teenagers, it's TikTok. And they will spend hours, if you allow them, to scroll. And not even realizing that everything that's flashing before their eyes is not only filling their minds, but it is filling their hearts. It's captured them so deeply that everything that they see begins to sink in and resonate with them. And ultimately, what resonates within us will come out of us. And this is true for Joseph because he would seek truth. He would constantly find favor, even when he shouldn't. I mean, the prison guard, the guy that's in charge of all of it, I can trust you. Why don't you just go ahead and do my job for me? I'm going to go hang out with the boys. I mean, that's in essence what he's saying. Go do my job for me, Joseph. I trust you. I'll give you the keys. I'm not worried about you getting out or even letting anybody else out. I trust you. Why could he trust him? Because he saw it for himself firsthand. There's something different about this guy. The way that he responds to his circumstances, it's different. It's not the same that I've seen from every other guy that has been in the same situation that he's in. He didn't respond with the normal response. He responded different. It's because he would seek truth. We can begin to learn that from Joseph, that you and I need to seek truth. Joseph confessed his unbelief. He confessed his unbelief. I'm sure there were moments and nights that he sat in that prison cell and he said, God, where are you? Man, I remember the days when my dad put that coat of many colors on me and I was able to walk around the house with my chest held high. Look at me, boy. Look at me. I miss that. I thought I was meant for something. I'm sure he confessed his unbelief before God. He was willing to be honest and transparent, not to hold back, not to hide, not afraid of what will God do if I tell him how I really feel. I mean, God's waiting for you and I just to tell him. I mean, you and I have had those moments of doubt, those moments of fear, those moments of uncertainty where we've been afraid to approach God with the way that we really feel. So what if? What if for a moment we just say, God, I am mad. I am so mad right now. It's not supposed to be like this. What if we just confess it? Confess our unbelief. I mean, we see it with Jesus in Mark 9, verse 24. I mean, in Mark 9, what we see there is a dad who felt like, man, Jesus is here. I'm hearing about him coming to the temple and teaching, and my son is possessed, and I just want him to be healed. I don't know if he can heal him, but I'm going to bring him anyway. because I hope he can do something about it. Listen to what it says in Mark 9. Verse 24, it says, immediately the boy's father exclaimed, I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief. And for you to understand that, look at what it says in the previous verse. Jesus asked the boy's father, how long has he been like this? From childhood, he answered. It is often thrown into the fire or water to kill him. But look at what the dad says. But if you could do anything. But if you could do anything, if you could, listen to the second part, take pity on us and help us, that would be great. Jesus, if you can. If you can. Because as a father and a father of boys, I would do anything for my kids. I wouldn't want my kids to suffer. And this dad, watching his child suffer day after day after day, he hears about Jesus, all the amazing things that he's doing. And so he comes, and he's just hoping. I hope he can. I hope he can. And then look at how Jesus responds. If you can? Really? If I can? Everything is possible for one who believes. And so then immediately the boy father exclaims, I believe. Help my unbelief. Help me where I don't believe. Help me where I struggle the most. Help me where, let's just put all of our cards on the table, where I doubt. Help me, because I got doubts. And if we're all honest, every single one of us, we've all had a season of doubt, even me. I mean, let's be real with one another. We've been like that father. I'm going to throw a Hail Mary, Jesus, and if you can, whew, man, it would just help me believe even more. Or maybe it will just help me believe. Confess your unbelief. Confess it. Share your concerns with your community. I mean, Joseph, no matter where he went, he found community. No matter where. He found people that he could do life with, and there's something about community that is so important for you and for me. We need people in our lives that will speak truth into us, truth in love. Not truth in, you're wrong, I'm right. But truth in love, knowing that you have a community that will walk with you no matter what you're going through. No matter how good it is or how bad it is. That you find your people that you can rally around, that they can rally around you whenever you're going through anything. Share your concerns. Not with just people that are going to agree with you. We all have those people in our lives that no matter what we say, oh yeah, your boss, he's a jerk. He's the biggest jerk on earth. I've never met him, but based on what you're telling me, he's a jerk. What if you just go in and love your boss, despite what he says or does to you? Let's just see what happens. I mean, that's a totally different narrative. It's a totally different approach. But when we're in community, authentic community with people that we really do life with, that care for us, no matter where we are, when it comes to faith, that they care for us. So share your concerns with your community. Be open. Share it. Share your life. Listen to what it says in Philemon 1, chapter 1, verse 6. And this is Paul writing. He says, I pray that your partnership with us in the faith may be effective in deepening your understanding of every good thing we share for the sake of Christ. Community is about sharing. I mean, you've heard it. You've said it to your kids. Kids, sharing is caring. It doesn't change when we become adults. It doesn't change when we become teenagers. It doesn't change. Share in community with one another. Really do life. Care for those. That's what we discover from Joseph, is no matter where he goes, he does that. But we can also remember this. Remember God's faithfulness and spend time with him. Remember his faithfulness. It's hard to remember God's faithfulness when we're in a dark season. It's hard. When things aren't going the way that we want or hope or expect, it's hard to remember that God was faithful. Because we're so ingrained in whatever it is that we're experiencing. We're so overwhelmed with it that we can't see through it to see God. The way that we remember God's faithfulness is spending time with him. That's how we remember his faithfulness. We spend time with him. It means that we spend time with him in the good times. Not just the bad ones, but in the good ones. When everything's going right. When we can check all the boxes and say, yep, I'm winning. Man, I can go to bed tonight and I feel really good about life. So when the bad times come, and they will come, they will hit. But we have to remember when they hit that God is faithful. That God is who he says that he is. That he's not changing. That his love for you will never diminish. It will never devalue. It will only go up. He's faithful. He's faithful, and he's faithful because we spend time with him. See, you shouldn't let your circumstances shape your relationship with God. Don't let your circumstances shape it. But no matter where you are, no matter what season you're in, your relationship with him has to be consistent. God could say over and over to Joseph, I'm with you because you're with me. I'm with you because no matter where you've been, you've always been with me. You've always been with me, Joseph. Even when your dad put the robe on you, you were with me. Even when you found favor in the eyes of Pharaoh, you were still with me. We were still boys. I still got your back. And now that you're in prison, you're still with me. No matter how dark it may seem. I know that you kind of casted a line on the baker and the cupbearer. I know you casted a line on them, hoping that when they saw Pharaoh, that they would give a good word about you. That they would tell Pharaoh, hey man, your boy Joseph, he's killing it in prison. I mean, he's doing it right. You got to get him out. He's going to help you be better than you could be on your own. You need him. Something's different about Joseph, but they didn't. They just left him. All they thought about was themselves, which is the natural thing for most of us. We just think about ourselves. Even when it comes to our relationship with God, we just think about ourselves. Don't stop remembering that God is faithful. And if you can remember and understand that he's faithful, then look to things to be grateful for. Look to things to be grateful for. Everything that you've been through. I have so many seasons where I can say, I'm grateful. It was painful, but I'm grateful because it taught me something. It made me who I am today. It deepened my relationship with God. It helped me develop greater trust. Look to things to be grateful for. I mean, what is it that you're setting your eyes on? What is it that you're looking to? Well, man, I'm so thankful that I got a good job. I'm so thankful that I got a nice house. I got a car that runs. I've got money in the bank. I mean, those are nice things, but those are here today and can be gone tomorrow. So what are you grateful for? Are you grateful for the spouse that you're doing life with? I mean, my wife, she makes me a better husband. My kids, they make me a better dad. In all, they make me want to be a better follower of Jesus. And I'm grateful for that. Man, do we butt heads? You better believe it. We're human. but I'm still grateful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I'm part of a loving and caring church, one that will step up to whatever the call is. I'm grateful for my church. Is our church perfect? No, because I'm part of it. But I'm grateful that even in all my flaws and my scars, that you still love me. I'm grateful. No matter where I've been, no matter what I've done, no matter what's been done to me, I'm grateful for my church. I'm grateful for this family. Listen to what Paul wrote in 1 Thessalonians 5, 16 and 18. It says, rejoice always, not sometimes, always. Pray continually, never stop. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. Trust grows as you look for God's presence in what feels dark and heavy. That's when trust grows. Be grateful. Rejoice always, no matter what season of life you're in. No matter where you are, no matter what you're going through, be grateful. And this is probably the hardest one that we learn and can discover from Joseph. Wait on the Lord. He had to wait time and time again. He had to wait. But God, I know what the end plan is. I know where we're going. I know what you've promised. It's okay, Joseph, wait. Because what I'm taking you through will better prepare you for what's coming for you. He was just preparing him the same way that he wants to prepare us. But I'm impatient. I mean, if I'm going to be honest, I'm impatient. God, I got this. I got a plan. I got a strategy. I got people that are behind me. I can fix this because I can fix anything. Just to wait. I don't want to wait. Waiting's hard. Waiting is some of the most difficult seasons of our life. And we have to just wait. And we wait, and we wait, and we wait. Here's what waiting does. Waiting reminds us that God is in control. Waiting reminds us that he's in control, not us. What do you mean God's in control? I'm the one that gets up every day and puts on my clothes and goes to work, even if I don't feel like it. I'm in control of my life. I'm the one that decides where I'm going or what I'm doing or how I'm going to get there. I decide. What do you mean he's in control? Waiting means you and I are confessing, we're believing that God is in control no matter what circumstances we're going through. And that is hard. And if anybody says that it's not hard, I'm willing to call them a liar. It's hard. It had to be hard for Joseph. I mean, prison then isn't like what we see today. And what he had to go through and experience over and over. And I know that in the waiting, it seems like that God is silent, but he's not. Listen to what the psalmist wrote in Psalm 34:17. It says, when the righteous cry for help, the Lord hears and delivers them out of all their troubles. But it's not in the timing that you think. It's in his timing. When we're waiting. You know what it's like to wait. Have you ever had to meet somebody at a restaurant? You got there first, and you just constantly look at your watch like, all right, they should be here in 5 minutes. 5 minutes comes. Well, 5 minutes late, I see that they don't value my time. I carved out this moment, this special time for just them, and evidently they don't value it as much as I do. And so we just jump to conclusions, but then we just have to wait. 15 minutes? I'm a busy person. I got a lot of things going on in my life. You want me to wait? That's not God. God's not sitting at the table like, well, Cory, it's been 26 days since we last spoke. but I'm still here. Where's God? Where is God? He's right where he's always been. And yes, we may have to wait, but he's waiting with us. We're not waiting alone. So I don't know where you are right now. I don't know if the season that you're in is a mountaintop or a valley. But God is right where he's always been. Will you pray with me? Father, Lord God, it's my prayer that right now, that no matter where we're in our life, no matter how much it mirrors exactly with what's going through Joseph's or how much different it is, that there's something that we can learn from him and the way that he lived his life, that we could seek truth, that we'll confess our unbelief, that we know that you are faithful, which leads us to be grateful, which means that we might have to wait. So help us no matter where we are along the road. I pray for peace today. I pray for peace in a rocky world that we live in. I pray for peace in the middle of uncertainty. I pray for peace in the middle of doubt. God, you know what's going on in this place. You know what's going on in our lives, and I pray that you will intervene, that you will work in a way that we had never expected you to work. Father, take my unbelief and create a deep longing and trust in you like I've never had before. Move in this place as we worship you. It's in Jesus' name that I pray. Amen.